Hello everyone, this is Civilization Lounge. Today we'll continue to read Robert Spalding's book, Stealth War, How China Took Over While American Elite Slept. In 1998, Robert Spalding was trained to pilot B-2 Spirit, also known as B-2 Stealth Bomber, a heavy American strategic bomber. So retired from the U.S. Air Force as a brigadier general after more than 26 years of services. He completed his career as the senior director for the strategic planning to the president at the National Security Council and was the chief architect for the national security strategy. He is a former China strategist for the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff and the Joint Staff at the Pentagon, as well as a senior defense official and defense attaché to China. He earned his doctorate in economics and mathematics from the University of Missouri and is fluent in Mandarin. Chapter 2, Subtitle: The Danger of Capitalist Magical Thinking. It is also critical to see how U.S. leaders assumed that building a relationship with China would result in political changes in Beijing. The United States had and still has a vision of itself as a nation builder. We helped reshape Europe after World War II and did a pretty good job of it. We helped democratize Taiwan. We also helped Japan, South Korea, and after the end of the Cold War, former members of the Soviet bloc, like Poland and Czech Republic, grow into democracies. For some reason, many policymakers and investors seem to assume that capitalism has special powers that can melt away authoritarianism and totalitarianism. History and recent current events, however, tell us this is nothing more than magical thinking. We have spent billions and billions of dollars trying and failing to turn Iraq and Afghanistan into self-sustaining democracies. Egypt, Uganda, and other authoritarian-leaning nations have received billions of dollars in the U.S. military and financial aid, and they still can't get over the hump to achieve lasting democracy. Ditto for many of our allies in the Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. When Deng Xiaoping rose to power in 1978, the CCP recalibrated its attitude toward trade and capitalism. The country was open to receiving foreign investment and participated in a growing global market, but only on its terms. Foreign money could come into China, but it had to remain there. Profits could not be transferred overseas without a great deal of difficulty. China also allowed its citizens to participate in certain Western practices. They could start businesses, create wealth, and wear baseball caps instead of Mao caps. But Beijing kept strict controls over everything else, cementing in no uncertain terms a totalitarian state. There is only one political party with power in China, the CCP. It controls all facets of life in China. It says there shall be no free speech, no freedom of religion, no freedom of the press. The People's Liberation Army is not, in fact, China's army. It is a wing of the CCP. Every business in China must, by law, have a member of the CCP on its board. In May 1989, there was a brief glimmer of hope that a significant segment of the Chinese population wanted democratic reforms. For 3 weeks, as many as 1 million people, students, workers, civil rights leaders, gathered to stage pro-democracy rallies in Beijing's Tiananmen Square. On June 4th, the military was called to silence the protesters. A massacre ensued. Reports of the number of protesters slaughtered have varied, ranging from a few hundred, according to the CCP, to as many as 10,000 per British diplomatic cable. An estimated 10,000 were arrested. On June 5th, one of the most dramatic moments of the late 20th century occurred. A man holding 2 shopping bags stood in front of an approaching Chinese tank, blocking its path in a life or death game of chicken. The identity of the tank man remains a mystery. While millions watched this dramatic showdown all over the globe, to most Chinese citizens, the heroic incident itself remains unknown. Images and references to it not only are banned in China, but are actively hunted down by sophisticated algorithm-powered censors and thousands of social media monitors. 1 month after the Tiananmen crackdown, a telling photo surfaced that was equally disturbing in this way. The sight of U.S. National Security Advisor Brent Scowcroft and Deng Xiaoping beaming at each other, arms outstretched. Scowcroft was there for a secret meeting at the direction of President George H.W. Bush. That picture and others that surfaced told China and the world everything they needed to know. Bush was backing down. America was willing to concede to China's totalitarian rule. At that point, American foreign policy became about opening markets, and the justification was the belief that free trade would eventually free China. Somehow, a theory of the earning of freedom took hold, an idea that democracy would rule the sleeping giant when per capita income passes $6,000. James Mann, in his book The China Fantasy, calls the West idea that China will morph into a liberal democratic society the soothing scenario. He summarizes the logic this way. The country's rapid economic growth will lead to far-reaching political change as well. Eventually, increasing trade and prosperity will bring liberalization and democracy to China. Mann also talks about the opposite of the soothing scenario, the upheaval scenario, in which doubters envision China collapsing as the result of economic chaos or some kind of mass revolution. The result is turmoil and chaoses. Mann was way ahead of the curve when he wrote his book back in 2007, a time when China was literally exploding with commerce and manufacturing. 6 years earlier, in 2001, Bill Clinton signed a law passed by Congress establishing permanent normal trade relations with China. With that relationship codified, U.S. investors' confidence skyrocketed, and so did business. China's economy soared as well, due to a confluence of events. China was then accepted as a member of the World Trade Organization. Apple unveiled the iPod, and an eruption of digital goods turned into an avalanche of international investment. Despite China's exponential growth, man didn't believe in either the soothing or the upheaval scenario. For him, all signs indicate that the CCP would continue to hone its brand of authoritarian capitalism. End of story. And he has been proven absolutely right. The power of capital and free trade has made China rich. It has lifted hundreds of millions up from poverty. It has also made many investors and business owners outside China untold billions of dollars. But it hasn't made China democratic or increased civil liberties. There is no free press. There is no freedom of speech or religion. These foundational concepts of the United States and the West are regarded as an existential threat to the CCP. So much so that the party even put it in writing. Let's take a look at that paper trail. These foundational concepts of the United States and the West are regarded as an existential threat to the CCP. So much so that in 2013, the party put it in writing in the position paper known as Document 9. The CCP states that the promotion of universal values, the belief that Western freedom, democracy, and human rights are universal and eternal. It's an attack to the foundations of the CCP. It goes on to warn against promoting Western constitutional democracy, which it describes as an attempt to undermine the current leadership and socialism with Chinese characteristic system of governance.